That doesn't. That sounds like Star Wars or something.
I don't watch Star Wars, so
No, I mean neither. It just sounds like some sort of space theme song. Doesn't sound like our theme song. Well, we are back. Another episode, Done with Adulting Podcast. We're here. You hate when I say that.
another episode.
Every time we come on here, I feel like there's so many things we could talk about because the world is obviously just
It's trash right now.
It's disintegrating around us. However, we are here to talk specifically about a topic that I saw a couple people discussing on Instagram the other day, and it made me think that I wanted to talk with you about it too, because I have a lot of things, but
I want to share your opinion on it.
Yeah. So we this week are talking about generational curses. I'm going to define that because I feel like we need some context. So anyways, I saw this on Instagram, like I said, and the question was, are there any generational curses that your family has that you as an individual are trying to break? And so essentially a generational curse involves negative patterns from your family history that are repeated in your own life. And I feel like, I just feel like, I mean, for both of us, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but our family is the literal building blocks of who we are, and just a very important group of people that we have learned from or whatever, but at this, and we love them very dearly. I'm prefacing all this because I have so much family that listens to this podcast, but there are things that go on in our families that you sometimes are just like, is this happening? Like, are we really doing this? And then you might think to yourself, I'm not going to do this when I have kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't know if I would call it a curse versus you just learning from other people's mistakes and you not wanting to do that. But I guess if it's generational and it's been going on through your family for generations, I guess it could be called a curse. I don't know.
I think they call it a curse because sometimes it can be so hard to break. Like, even if you're trying to break the cycle as an individual for like the generations under, like, below you, it can be so ingrained in like your family culture or your family history that it feels like impossible to change.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe that's why they call it a curse. I feel like, for example, one generational curse that I feel like we have in my family is, okay, I want to start with something positive because let's also talk about generational, the opposite of curse.
Yeah, my mind's on the positives of like what we as individuals should
be passing down
for our family. Yeah.
Okay, so generational successes, I feel like one huge one in my family is like the idea of like higher education, and literally we call it like sending the elevator back down or whatever. So like every generation of cousins or aunts and uncles who like completes higher education, we like hold a huge celebration to like acknowledge their success. Yeah. And then like the point of that, the idea of that is to like show the younger kids at the cookout or whatever that like you get celebrated when you reach your accomplishments, that higher education is important, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and you also have to look at it, like, I don't want to make everything racial, but you also got to look at it from, I guess, our point of view, because
everything is racial.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, I feel like white people, they really don't, they probably celebrate people graduating college or things like that. I'm not going to say all white people, obviously, but I feel like for black people, like, there's a lot of first in their families.
Yeah. Like the celebration goes, it's almost like it's super deep, because I feel like the difference is there are a lot of like white people that I know, white families that they've gone, like they can go through their parents and grandparents or whatever and like tell you where all those people went to school. And some of them, you know, have like, they all went to the same school. You know what I'm saying? Like they all,
there's like a history there.
Exactly. Which is hey, shit, if my family had a name at a university and like whatever, then that's lit.
If you showed up and just ran the school,
Right, like that's lit, but obviously, like I just do feel like you're correct for a lot of Black people. This isn't like in my family necessarily. I wasn't a first. I was like hardly even close to a first, but which is something I'm grateful for. But in a
and
lot of
that's totally a different experience than other Black families as well, though.
yeah,
So yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So I feel like that's one generational success that my family has that I would like to pass on is just like the importance of education, even if it's not like higher education, because I feel like even that idea is shifting a little bit in terms of like the value of higher education, but just like being educated in general, like learning, like the concept of continual learning and growing, and the idea that you
outside
don't
of a
know it
high
all.
school diploma,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So do you think that if your family continues to do that over time, it will just be like, I don't want to say like watered down, but there won't be that much of importance to it?
I just think Gen Z right now is on this like we
F
gotta
everything.
yeah, like we gotta get Gen Z on here, which we're going to, but I just feel like Gen Z right now is like they're graduating high school and they can't even go to campus, or like they just got to campus last year. Do you know what I'm saying? And now it's a pandemic. But before even the pandemic, I feel like Gen Z were doing like the gap year. Like I never even heard of a gap year before. I feel like we've talked about this in another episode, but I feel like the gap year was already becoming possible. And with social media, like there are Gen Zs, 18,
Possible
19,
or popular?
popular. I just feel like there are Gen Zs who are coming out of high school or entering college, 18, like let's say 18 to 20-year olds who are already making income via like YouTube or social media.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so to them, it's like, why do I need to go to college? Like I'm already making not like enough to support their lives forever, but they see that they don't necessarily need to go to college to make
To
money.
make a living, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like when
And
we were
also,
going to college, there was no Instagram. I mean, there was, but it was like new.
you really weren't getting famous unless you had a super crazy talent.
Right.
Now people they just get famous off of popularity or just making a dumb video, and then that celebrity could follow them for the rest of their lives. And I mean that, and just being a celebrity or just having a face that's known to people or being well known, that does open up opportunities for you to make money.
Yeah.
Especially you don't even need an education for that.
Yeah. Well, and I think like, yeah, just like e-commerce in general, making money off social media is like so much more normal. But I do have some generational curses that like I would like to acknowledge slash break.
So what are they?
Well, one of them I feel like is just like, and this isn't a fault at all. Like when I say that these are generational curses, it's not like we created this and it's like we had to be this way to survive as Black people. And now it's like perfect example is like my mom, her mother, like all the matriarchs in my family. If you look at my grandmother and older, like our family was very, very poor. Like the family, my immediate family now that I like the house that I live in and all that stuff was literally essentially single handedly created by my mother. My mother grew up poor.
Boss.
So, but in that, with that, like with having to like climb from the bottom to the top, which is exactly what she did, you have to like you can't break down. You can't like my mom is like the
Oh, you
most
gotta be strong.
yeah, like my mom is the most non-emotional person ever. Like when I literally say I've in my entire lifetime I've maybe seen this woman shed a tear one time. I mean I can only think of one time right now on the spot, probably two total in my life. So that's exactly how I am. I mean, not anymore. In my adult life, I've definitely become more emotional. But like growing up, you can ask anybody who really knows me, like, I never really showed emotion or like, I don't know. People still make jokes about how when I played basketball, like I would make the same face when a good thing or a bad thing would happen. I would just like have no reaction to it. Like
Well,
that.
I feel like you do that now. But actually, your reaction is not like it's like I don't know. You get like that the RBF. Is that what it is? People think you're mad all the time.
Yes, because I'm just listening or like whatever, processing, which like so
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, but like one thing that I want to do like with my kids is like I just want to have more open and honest dialogue with my kid about their emotions and like basically allowing emotions to be okay. Like
But I think that's also like like a generational thing as well.
that's
So
what I'm saying. It's a generational
yeah,
curse.
I'll, again back to the curse word. I
Well,
don't
think of a
know.
better word. Think of a synonym.
I don't know. But like to your point, yeah, us growing up, emotions like you, it wasn't really a good thing for you to share your emotions, especially like as a boy.
Exactly.
But now I think in today's society, it's definitely more welcoming, or it's definitely welcomed more, and it's definitely, I guess, praise, not praise, but people want you to share your emotions,
Yeah.
and you won't be judged for doing that in today's society. And even I feel like, and even like guys who grew up and they were told, "Oh, boys don't cry," or "You better not cry," yada yada yada. I think that when they raise their kids, they're going to allow their kids to have those emotions, and they're going to make it a comfortable space for their kids to do that.
Well, who's they? What about you?
Well, yeah,
That's what you
I'm
mean?
saying me and other individuals. Like I remember growing up, I was like, my dad would be like, "Oh, you better not be crying," blah 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 blah, and I just really didn't cry. I don't even think I really cry that much now, but I'm definitely going to allow my kids to
Yeah.
be open and have those emotions, and if they want to cry, go ahead and cry.
Right.
I mean, if they have a reason to cry, I'm not going to let them be crying over.
Crybabies.
Yeah, it's just like they're gonna be a crybaby, but
That right there is
if
the
it's something
social
that's valid,
construct, a crybaby. We made that term because we didn't
we
want.
made yeah, we made all these terms.
Okay.
We made all these terms. But no, but even back to what you're saying, like I feel like there's a lot of black families that didn't grow up with the best of things or with silver spoons in their mouths and things like that. And I think that a lot of individuals growing up now,
Hmm.
that's one of their goals is make sure that they're financially stable and that the people who raise them are also financially stable. And then hopefully you will be able to get to the point where you would be able to pass that down to your kids.
Exactly. Like that would be a generational. What do we call it? What was the opposite of curse?
I don't
We
know.
just said it. Not blessing. Success. Generational success. A generational success would be like providing generational wealth to your kids.
Yeah, and I think that's a goal for a lot of people like our age.
Hmm.
I don't even know. Like I'm not even gonna say our age, but I'm just going back to like our community. I think that's like a big thing in our community because, like I said, growing, you might not have had the best of things. So obviously, you want your kids' lives to be better than what you had growing up. So you're going to do that for your kids, but you also want to give back to the family and the people that actually raised you. So making sure your mom and your dad or your aunts, your older cousins, making sure that they're good as well.
Yeah. I think another thing for me is like this has to do with like the emotional thing, but just like normalizing therapy. I say this all the time that I'm one day gonna do it.
But
But
yeah, I mean that's another thing. Yeah, growing up, like I would never think, oh, therapy would be a cool thing, but now I think I don't know. I don't know if I think it's a fad right now
no,
or it's actually like
I don't think it's a fad. I think that in I'll speak to specifically my family. Like my family has gone through a lot of shit. Like and now as like my aunts and uncles are getting older, I maybe it's my social worker brain just like social working people all the time, but I can see like the internalized trauma like coming out in their actions, like it's so obvious sometimes, and I'm just
so now
like
you're understanding why they act in the way they act.
yes, and I'm just like wow, we all need therapy, like low key all black people need therapy just because of the systematic shit that we face, but like we can never afford it. So that's like a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I just feel like it's a stigma, like you said, like, is it a fad? Do you really need it? Like, what is a therapist going to tell me that I don't already know? Or like, whatever.
I mean, the way that I'm looking at it now, I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you go to a therapist?
They
like
just
what what negative effect could there be? There only could be positive, right?
Well, I feel like the negative effect for a lot of people is that it costs a shit ton of money and you may go like for me the biggest thing is like if I go to a therapist, I want to find someone that I like and it could take like a couple tries to find that person, but you still have to pay for all those tries. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah,
want
like every
to
time you attend or go to one to see
yeah,
if you
yeah. Do you get what I'm
there's no
saying?
like free trials.
Exactly. Mostly not unless you're like using an app, but like I don't get that.
Yeah, why would you want to do that over an app? That's just so impersonal.
Yeah, it seems
But that could be like a huge thing, though. That could be a huge thing in the future. I wouldn't be surprised.
there's app therapies already, bro, all over the place.
Yeah, but I could see it actually like taking off.
I mean, especially with the pandemic.
True. But actually, back to your point in regards to like you looking at your older family members and you actually like seeing the trauma. Isn't it kind of funny now? Like as you get older, you start learning the family secrets and
Yes.
and you start putting two to two together, and you're like, wait, what? And then it's just to me, it's just funny.
So for me personally, I've said this before on the podcast, my biggest fear on earth is divorce. I was affected by that. That's not necessarily a generational curse, but for me, that's like I don't know. There are statistics about like children growing up in divorced households and then also going through the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel you. I grew up in a household that was divorced or a divorced household or whatever you want to call it. But, and even like throughout my family, I mean, there's a lot of single women in my family, but I never looked at that like, oh, I want to be the one that breaks that curse. I mean, obviously, I would like to. I would like for me and my wife to be together forever.
Right.
But I never really thought about like, oh, I would want to do that just to break this cycle that's in my family versus me just enjoying life with my partner or with the person I'm with.
No, yeah, I definitely don't think about it like that. I just think about, I mean, I guess I do think about it because I said it like that, but
No, because my whole thing is like I understand that, but I feel like if you say that in the beginning of something, like like I want to do this, not only because I love the person I'm with, but also to break this curse, it's going to force you to take. I think it would force you to take things from that partner that you normally wouldn't take if you didn't force yourself to be in that situation. Does that make sense?
yeah, that does make sense.
Like you would allow more, you would have more leeway on certain things. You might even take
Right. Yeah.
more abuse because you're forcing yourself. You already have that mindset.
Yeah. And
To
then you
stay
end
with
up
that
in the
person no matter
exact
what.
place. Yeah. And
Exactly.
you end up in the exact place that you're trying to avoid. I think for
It
me,
could be
like,
even worse. Yeah.
yeah. I think for me, it definitely informed, like, I just wanted to make sure the foundation of what I had with who I ended up with was going to stand the test of time. I mean, feel very confident about it.
But I do think it's important that if you do have a cycle of that, it's definitely important for you to take. I would say it's better for you to take pride in breaking that cycle versus you putting that mandate on yourself to break
Right.
it.
Right. That's true.
And I feel like, at least for me, like you said, like breaking certain things, like I really haven't thought of that growing up, basically, or other than what you making money versus your family currently not having money. I think that's what the number one go to when you're younger. But then as you get older, you start thinking about things deeper than money that would affect you and your family more, other than just the bottom line, which would be getting as much money as possible that you might not have had growing up.
Also, I feel like generational curses can be simple. Like one thing I saw on the conversation I was looking at was like not being able to swim. I mean, that is not.
Oh yeah.
That's
I mean,
not
we
a
definitely could strip this. We definitely can strip this down to.
That's not a generational curse in
most
my
basic
family,
level.
but I feel like, do you? No, you swim. Do you swim?
Yes, I swim. I know how to swim. I mean, I don't swim, but I know how to swim.
But you prefer not to swim.
I'm not just going to a pool to swim.
Okay, so
But
you don't just
I go to the pool. I sit down. I can go to the deep end. I can go to an ocean. I go to the lake, but I don't just be out there. Oh, let's go for a swim.
I'm just trying to remember like the last time I saw you going to the deep end in my pool. I don't remember.
I haven't been in your pool in a while,
Yeah,
but
we know.
trust me,
We know.
I could survive in the deep end.
Okay. Well, can't wait for that. But another thing someone brought up is like keeping secrets. I feel like this goes back to what you just said about learning stuff about your family members when you get older.
But the thing is, like, I don't even think, like, obviously, if you look at it, it's keeping secrets, but I think that's just family members living their life and keeping their business to themselves versus actually like keeping a secret. You know what I mean?
Hmm, that's a
Or
good
is that
point.
like,
No, I think that's real. I think that's real because I feel like specifically in my family, we all feel like we need to know everything about each other all the time. Like the word spreads like wildfire. If anything happens, it's like
oh yeah, but that
everybody
happens.
knows
Yeah,
about it.
but that's just because people don't know how to mind their business and they want to gossip.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I associate that with keeping secrets. I don't know. That's a good point.
Well, so another thing too to think about is like I'm just like going back to this conversation, reading these comments is we're sitting here talking about like breaking the generational curse of like, whether it's a single parent home or divorced home household. And like some people are on here talking about breaking the curse of like staying with someone because like God doesn't like divorce or because
Yeah, I don't understand that.
the family doesn't believe in divorce. Like that
That's
to me
something.
actually is probably worse.
Yeah, I don't like. I never understood that. I don't know if I ever will, but I just don't understand. If you're not happy in a situation, why would you stay? I mean, I know people have reasons behind it and things like that, but at the end of the day,
I feel like
your
kids
happiness
alone.
depends on you, though.
Yeah,
So,
but I feel like kids alone are like some of the main reasons.
but you can raise kids and
Yeah,
not
of
be stuck
course.
in that situation.
Of course you can, but like you're just that's not really what you're thinking about. You're thinking about like I can suffer this one thing so that my kid can like see their parent.
I don't know.
I mean, it depends on what it is, but
So I don't know if this is a curse, but this is definitely something that I would want to break. Um, so I don't have any vivid recollection of any of my grandfathers because I think they all passed.
mm-hmm.
Like I was either way too young to realize it when they passed, or they might have passed before I was born. So I definitely would want my grandkids to know who I am.
You gotta stay alive, man.
Yeah, and be there to play with them and things like that. But I guess some of that's up to me. But there's an aspect of it that's not. We'll see. We'll see if that happens down the road.
Okay, so another thing, this goes along with finances, but I feel like in my family we didn't talk about money at all really. There's just so many resources now that you can start talking to kids about like finances and financial stability and just like money in general
Or just
so
not
that
even
when they
messing up your credit. Like
yeah,
just
like
doing that
budgeting or like
in itself can help out so much.
literally anything. Literally anything.
And I also think that schools should start teaching that. Like obviously it
100%.
should be on the families, but that should be in education.
Yeah. There's another good one on here that I have to I have to say, which is like the idea that you're obligated to have a relationship with someone just because they're your family.
Also, people are trying to break that curse. I can see why. I mean, not a
People are
curse,
trying to
but
break that curse because that what they are saying is like there are toxic people in my family, and for me to live a
facts.
successful life, I need to cut toxic people off. But I have
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's perfectly okay to cut family members off or people that you're close to, especially if you've given them numerous amount of times to change and they haven't.
yeah, but like sometimes doing that, cutting off that family member is like
It's like a ripple effect.
yes, like now you have to deal with 20 other family members saying like why do you do that like and trying to break everything down when it's like or you could just suck it up and just deal with this person from a distance.
All right, so let's look at it this point of view. Say if it's a family member who grew up in the crack age and was on hardcore drugs and just kept stealing from family members, putting other family members in the worst of situations and scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, I could see the family trying to help out and staying with them no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in today's times now, like as we grow older and as we have more technology and we're better educated, we can try to find them that help.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't want to help themselves or take that advice or take that help at all, there's only
Yeah.
so much there's only so much effort you're gonna put into it before you cut them off.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to like addiction, that's like another beast because you're right. You can, like, it has to be up to the person to make the decision to be a different person. So this is very random. This has literally nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but it just came to my head and I need to ask your opinion. What is your general opinion about lending money to family members and or friends that are like not your immediate, like not your parents, your significant other? Children don't count because you're supposed to support them, but basically just that.
Um, I think it depends on who it is. I don't think I've had a friend ask me for money. I've had a cousin or two ask, and I would give it. I've
So
had,
you would, so you would, so you would.
yeah, and depending on how much it is, I would be obviously expecting it back. But there's been times when it wasn't anything crazy. I was like, "Oh, nah, you got it."
Right.
But
Okay.
I also like I am kind of hesitant because if you do it, if you do it once, I like the bank's not always open. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, the bank's not always open.
So I'm not trying to set like a precedent where you can just come to me because like I don't know, you can just come to me and not think that you would have to give it back or that I'm always going to say yes because there's going to be times where I'll say no.
Isn't the motto like if you lend money, you just have to expect or like be prepared to never get it back, even if you think you will?
Oh yeah, I mean I think that would be the smart thing to do, and you shouldn't lend anything that you don't have
Right, right, right.
unless it's a dire situation. But even growing up, like I've seen, and that's the thing. I think with like I saw this tweet a while ago. It was basically, I mean, the root of the tweet was back to like the systemic oppression and things like that. How
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
we started off, we don't start off with generational wealth. Like
Right.
we're starting off behind already.
Yeah.
So even if somebody in your family, quote unquote, makes it and has
Mm-hmm.
money and is able to give back, they're still not at the same point in life as their other counterparts because those counterparts or peers aren't still providing for their family.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I
You
mean,
know,
I'll try to find the tweet. We could put it up as one of our little tweet things.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when I saw that, I was like, yo, that's the realest thing because like you might be looked at as successful in your family, but if you're making money and doing things, but you're still passing it back to your family, trying to make sure that they're all good, you're not at the same point in life with other people who don't have to do that, obviously.
Right, 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 right. That's a good point. You know what else too I was thinking about is I was thinking about my first memory of like realizing what generational wealth was and like the fact that a lot of white people have it and black people don't.
And we're not saying
And
that like all white people have this. We understand
right, right,
that.
right, 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 right,
So if
right,
you're
right.
listening to this,
Oh
don't be
God,
like, "Oh,
please.
I don't have generational wealth."
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
understand. I understand that. We know
No, but
that.
like a perfect example of this, I feel like, is like even if like generational wealth doesn't have to be like houses and shit like that. But like I remember my first idea of this was like when I was younger and I had like a friend, like a white friend whose like grandparent passed away. And they were like, yeah, I got this or I got that from my grandmother's will or my grandfather's will, like things that they got as
Yeah.
like passed down to them. And I remember thinking at this point, like, I think I probably at least had three dead parents. I don't have any living grandparents now, but I had probably only one living. And I was thinking to myself, like, I've never gotten anything ever from anybody's will. Not that like I deserve something, but it has started to have me think like they were getting like, whether it be like jewelry, like expensive jewelry, or like
Something valuable.
yes, a small amount of money, like whatever it is. Sometimes it is a house, sometimes it's a fund. Like I don't know what it is or what these people are getting passed down to them. But I feel like that was my first realization of the lack of generational wealth in the Black household, because it was like when my grandmother died, we all divided up the debt. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
we weren't like dividing up the freaking payouts. So
And that's another thing about like education. Like if our community has the education and the knowledge to know that, oh, you should have a will, you should actually invest in life insurance so your family members don't have to worry about certain things after the fact. Like just having that education so you can be financially literate
right
is a huge stepping stone. I
Huge.
mean, it's basically financial literacy.
Huge.
And that's something that a lot of people in our community never had, but we're starting to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree. Or at least we are, me and you.
Yeah, facts.
Okay, other things I just want to shout out as generational curses may not necessarily apply to you or me, but let me know if they do. Teen pregnancy. I feel like that's a big one.
Yo, when I hit 20, I was like, oh my God.
I did it.
God.
I beat teen pregnancy. I used to say that all the time to people.
Because like, especially, I don't know, you just look like society in our community, you just look at it and you're like, I know a lot of people who pregnant as teenagers. I don't want that.
Right.
And you just see that all the time. So you see that all the time and you're like, wow, this is going to happen to me eventually because it happens to everybody else. But
exactly.
Once you make it, you're like, whoo.
Whew. Yeah. Wipe the sweat off.
Even, so I don't know if this is a generational curse, but so I'm 29. I've never been arrested. And I kind of take pride in that. But yeah, knock on wood. I kind of take pride in that.
That's huge.
But like, if I said that to other individuals, they would be like, "Well,
yeah, what's your point?"
Yeah, like you're not supposed to get arrested.
Yeah, like, are you doing criminal activity?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I take pride. I'm like, I've never been arrested. I don't think I've even been handcuffed before.
That's amazing.
Like, yeah. So, but like other individuals would look at it and be like, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to get arrested," and I'm like, "Well, duh." But
it happens.
I see that in my community. Like, I know plenty of people who have been.
Right. And it's not their fault. They're just, I mean, we all know. So,
I mean, some of them, a good amount was their fault, but still.
But don't get me started because that's part of society as well. That's
yes.
Okay,
there's a deeper meaning.
Don't get me started. It's systemic, okay? Okay, so teen pregnancy, homophobia and transphobia, huge in the Black community, I think. Huge. Even if they don't say it. Like, bet if you, like, not necessarily saying so-and-so in your family is homophobic, but you know that if you had a child that was gay or bisexual, or fear of not you having to accept that. I mean, it is a huge acceptance thing for you as a person, but like your family, like your elders, at least for me, I know that's like a thing. Like I for sure have,
even people our age, even like our generation, they want to act like they're like we're all progressive and whatnot, but there's plenty of people still in our generation who feel that same exact way, especially in the Black community.
Yeah. Okay, shouting out a couple more before we wrap up. Racism, hello. I feel like I hope that a lot of allies this year have
stopped the racism in their families.
Not stopped it, but just now have a better understanding that racism could be a generational curse in your family, and you have the power to break it. Just a quick plug.
I like that.
This is a good one.
That might be the easiest one to break.
Hello, not the easiest.
Yeah,
the constructs are deep. Yeah. For using curse words in everyday conversation. I do this now as an adult, but I just want to clarify this was not something that was normalized in my household. I would actually used to get in trouble for saying curse words, but I feel like there are a lot of people out there like that I know were like cursing to their parents when they were like 14.
Yeah, that's wild.
Wild.
That's going to be broken for me because I don't
Me
curse.
too.
So.
Yeah, you definitely don't ever curse. I always sound like a sailor on this damn podcast doing it. That's what my mother said. She says, Jared never curses on the podcast, and all you do is drop F-bombs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm mad.
You got to curse for the both of us. It's okay. Any more of them, or?
I'm just looking.
I think that was a pretty good list we went over.
Yeah. It looks like protecting predators. That seems.
Oh, no, that's facts.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been sexually abused by uncles and aunts. And
and the family
the family protects them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's definitely a curse. Okay, so for the people listening, I don't know if we're going to put this in the pod, though.
Yeah, put it in the pod. Oh, my God. We were supposed to talk about this last week, Jared.
I'm going somewhere totally different. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So when we do this podcast, we do a little hangout and we like video Skype. So as she was speaking, I made this crazy face because I don't know if you heard, but Donald Trump or the government, they're giving like $700 million or $300 million, a crazy amount of money to, Kodak, the film company.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving them hundreds of millions of dollars to start making pharmaceuticals and get into the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know why, but he announced this like yesterday or 2 days ago. So this morning, actually no, last night, I looked at their stock price. It was $8.
Mm-hmm.
Before his announcement, it was like $2. It went up to $8.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just looked at the stock price while you were talking, and it's already up to $32.
Wow.
And I was literally thinking about buying.
You should have just did it when you did it.
I should have just did it. So that's why I made that face.
Okay, well, thanks. I was actually talking about, which now we're going to have to talk about next week for real, but your recent purchase that you made.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about it.
And last but not least, I just want to
there's a whole story behind it. So
I know. So we'll start off with that next time. But last but not least, did you see that Netflix bought all those black shows? They got the rights.
Yeah.
So just an FYI to everybody out there, there's about to be a lot of very great black television on Netflix, stuff that we grew up on. Hilarious stuff. Hilarious.
Stuff that we grew up on.
Sister, come on. Everybody should watch this show. And it's going to be available on Netflix. So, support the culture. Okay, let's take us out. If you like this episode and this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend.
Yes, follow us on the socials. Instagram is Done With Adulting Pod. Also on Twitter, Done WTH Adulting. Make sure you hit us with a follow, share our Insta, share everything. Hit us in the comments. Hit us in the DMs. Yeah.
Okay, we're also accepting new millennial making moves. So if you know anybody, or if you are a millennial, or literally anyone who's doing something lit, whether it's your own business or giving back to the community, hit us up. We would love to feature you.
Yes, sir.
Have a great weekend, Jared. I know you're going to be with family doing some fun stuff. So,
relaxing.
Relax. Have a great weekend. Are you going to the beach finally?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, you're lit.
We shall see how it is.
Okay, well, let me know how it goes.
You have a good one.
Peace.